Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Nature channel. Take a slow breath in and let it go. Let your shoulders drop just a little. You're here now, and that's enough. Tonight, we're going to walk together through a quiet forest where something magical happens beneath your feet, something you can't see, but something that's always been there, humming softly in the darkness of the soil. We're going to discover how trees talk to each other, not with words, not with sounds you could hear, but through their roots, through threads finer than silk, through a network so vast and so gentle that scientists have started calling it the Wood Wide Web. Imagine that. Beneath every forest floor, there's a kind of internet made of living threads, connecting tree to tree, carrying messages of care, of warning, of nourishment. So settle in. Let the world grow quiet around you. We're going beneath the surface tonight, where the light is dim and the soil is soft, where trees whisper to each other in a language older than any words. Beneath your feet, right now, if you were standing in a forest, there would be roots. You know this already. But what you might not know is that those roots don't travel alone. They reach out slowly, patiently, through the dark earth, searching. And when they find another root belonging to a neighboring tree, or even a tree of a different kind, they don't turn away. They connect. Picture a massive oak tree, old and broad, its branches reaching toward the sky. Now, imagine following one of its roots down into the earth, watching it split and split again into thousands of tiny hair-like threads. These threads, these root tips, are covered in something even smaller, something you'd need a microscope to see. Fungi, tiny fungal threads called hyphae, wrapping around the root like a soft blanket. This partnership between tree and fungus is called a mycorrhiza. It's a beautiful word, isn't it? It comes from ancient Greek, quote, zero meaning fungus, and quote, one meaning root. A fungus root, a friendship that began millions of years ago, long before humans ever walked beneath the trees. The fungus receives something precious from the tree, sugar. You see, trees are remarkable. They take sunlight, air, and water, and turn these simple things into food, into energy, into sweet sugars that flow through their veins. The tree shares some of this sweetness with the fungus, giving it away generously, the way you might share a warm meal with a friend. And in return, the fungus gives the tree something it desperately needs. The fungal threads spread out much farther than the tree's roots ever could, sometimes stretching for miles through the soil. These threads are so fine, so delicate, they can slip into tiny spaces between soil particles, reaching water and minerals the tree could never access on its own. Phosphorus, nitrogen, zinc, nutrients that help the tree grow strong, stay healthy, live long. But here's where it gets truly wonderful. These fungal threads don't just connect one tree to one fungus. They connect tree to tree to tree. A single network of fungal threads might link dozens, hundreds, even thousands of trees together. Imagine standing in a forest and realizing that nearly every tree around you is holding hands underground, connected by this invisible web of life. Through this network, trees can send each other food. A mother tree, a large, old tree with deep roots and broad branches, can detect when her seedlings, her young ones growing in her shadow, need help. The forest floor is dark down there, you see. Sunlight barely reaches through the canopy. The little ones struggle to make enough food through photosynthesis. So the mother tree sends them sugar. Through the fungal network, she shares her abundance, pumping nutrients and energy down through her roots, into the threads across the distance, and into the roots of her young. She feeds them, keeps them alive, gives them a chance to grow until they're tall enough to reach the light themselves. It's not so different from how you might care for someone you love. Quiet acts of kindness, sharing what you have, making sure those who need help receive it without fanfare, without expecting anything in return. And the trees don't only help their own children. Sometimes a Douglas fir will send nutrients to a paper birch. These are different species, different families, yet they help each other. In spring and summer, when the birch has more leaves and makes more food, it might share with the fir. In autumn, when the birch loses its leaves but the fir stays green, the fir returns the favor. Back and forth, give and take. A kind of conversation happening in slow motion, in the language of chemistry and care. Scientists didn't believe this at first. For a long time, we thought trees were individuals competing fiercely for light, water, and space. We imagined the forest as a battleground. But when researcher Suzanne Simard started studying these fungal networks in the forests of British Columbia, she discovered something different. She found cooperation. She found community. She injected trees with carbon isotopes, special markers she could track, and watched as those markers moved from tree to tree through the soil. The trees were sharing. They were connected. The whole forest was talking. Imagine walking through the woods at dawn, mist rising from the ground, and knowing that beneath your feet, trees are having conversations you can't hear. Conversations about who needs water, who has enough sunlight, who's struggling, who can help. There's a particular kind of fungus that works with many trees, species in the genus Rhizopogon. These fungi create networks that can span entire hillsides. One study found a network covering nearly 30 acres, connecting hundreds of Douglas fir trees. 30 acres of quiet conversation, 30 acres of mutual support. The fungal threads themselves are impossibly delicate. A single thread might be only a few micrometers wide, thinner than a human hair, thinner than a spider's silk. Yet together, in the billions, they're strong. They're transformative. They're the infrastructure of the forest's kindness. When you walk on forest soil, you're walking on top of thousands of miles of these threads. In one handful of healthy forest soil, there might be several miles of fungal hi-fi, all woven together, all connecting life to life. And it's not just nutrients that travel through this network. Trees send warning signals too. If one tree is attacked by insects, say, a beetle boring into its bark, it doesn't suffer in silence. It produces chemical compounds, stress signals, and releases some of these into the soil. The chemicals travel through the fungal network, carried from root to root, spreading the news. Danger, insects, be ready. The neighboring trees receive this warning and respond. They begin producing defensive chemicals even before the insects reach them. Tannins that make their leaves taste bitter, compounds that attract the predators of the pest insects. They prepare thanks to the warning sent by their neighbor through the underground web. If you'd like to learn more about nature's quiet conversations, feel free to check out our playlist. There are so many gentle stories waiting for you there. This kind of defense isn't loud or aggressive. It's quiet, patient, strategic. The forest protects itself, not through individual strength, but through shared awareness, through community. Think about that for a moment. The trees around you, if you were in a forest, are not isolated. They're part of something larger, something profoundly interconnected. And in their own slow, patient way, they care for each other. Let that thought settle over you like a soft blanket. There's something comforting in it, isn't there? The idea that even in nature, even among beings that can't speak or move, there's kindness, there's communication, there's a kind of love. The threads that connect the trees, those fungal hyphae we've been talking about, they're ancient beyond imagining. Fossils suggest that fungi have been forming these partnerships with plants for over 400 million years, long before flowers existed, long before grass, long before the first forests as we know them. Back then, plants were just beginning to colonize the land, struggling to survive in a world so different from the water they'd emerged from, and the fungi helped them, gave them access to nutrients, helped them establish roots in the soil. Together, they transformed the planet. So when you think about the Wood Wide Web, remember, this is one of Earth's oldest relationships, a friendship that has lasted longer than almost anything else. And it's still happening now, beneath your feet, quiet and patient and alive. There are trees that have been connected to the same fungal network for centuries, a network that has outlived individual trees, that welcomes new seedlings and mourns old giants, that holds the forest together through seasons and storms and the slow turning of years. Some scientists believe that the largest fungal networks might be among the oldest living organisms on Earth. There's a honey fungus in Oregon, Armillaria solidips, that covers more than 2,000 acres and might be thousands of years old. It's essentially one individual organism, one entity, connecting countless trees. Imagine that. An organism so large you could walk through it for hours. An organism that remembers in its own way the forest as it was centuries ago. These networks change with the seasons. In autumn, as trees begin to slow down and prepare for winter, the flow of sugars through the network decreases. The conversations grow quieter. It's not silence exactly, more like a gentle lull, a soft exhale as the forest settles into rest. And then in spring, as the snow melts and the days grow longer, the network comes alive again. Sugars flow, messages pass, seedlings wake up and reach out, finding themselves already connected, already part of the web. There's a rhythm to it, like breathing. The forest inhales and exhales, and the underground network pulses with it, carrying life from root to root. Different trees have different roles in the network. The mother trees, those large, old individuals, they're like hubs in the system. They have the most connections, the deepest roots, the most resources to share. When they're removed from a forest, through logging or storm damage, the whole network suffers. Younger trees lose their support system. Seedlings struggle. The flow of nutrients becomes erratic. It's as if the forest loses its elders, its wisdom keepers, and must learn to reorganize around the absence. This is why, when foresters carefully select which trees to cut, leaving the oldest and largest standing, the forest recovers better. The network remains mostly intact. The mother trees continue to feed and support the next generation. In some forests, a single mother tree might be connected to hundreds of younger trees, nurturing them all, sharing her abundance. She recognizes her own kin too, her direct offspring, and tends to give them a little more, a little extra support. Just as you might help your own family first before extending kindness outward. But she doesn't ignore the others. The network is generous. There's enough to share. If you've been enjoying this journey beneath the trees, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What forests have you walked through? What trees do you remember? Scientists have found that trees in diverse forests with many different species, tend to have more robust underground networks than monoculture plantations. When you plant row after row of identical trees, all the same species, all the same age, the fungal network doesn't develop the same complexity. Diversity creates strength. Different trees bring different fungi into the network. Different fungi access different nutrients, respond to different threats, create different connections. Together, they build something richer, more resilient. It's a lesson, perhaps, about the value of difference, about how variety isn't just beautiful, it's functional, it's necessary. The fungal threads themselves are extraordinary engineers. They can release enzymes that break down rocks, slowly dissolving minerals that would otherwise be locked away, unavailable to plants. Over years and decades, the fungi literally eat stone, transforming it into nutrients that trees can use. So the network isn't just connecting trees, it's building soil, creating the very ground that sustains the forest, turning rock into life, grain by grain, thread by thread. And all of this happens in darkness, in the spaces between soil particles, in places no sunlight ever reaches. The underground is a world of its own, as complex and alive as the forest above, but invisible to our eyes. When you water a plant, when you walk on forest soil, when you rest your back against a tree, you're touching the edge of this hidden world. Just the surface. Beneath, there are miles of conversation happening, connections being made and remade, nutrients flowing like quiet rivers through the dark. Some of the fungi in these networks produce mushrooms. Those are their fruiting bodies, their way of reproducing. When you see mushrooms growing in a ring around a tree or scattered across the forest floor, you're seeing the visible evidence of the network below. But for every mushroom you see, there might be thousands of feet of fungal threads underground. The mushroom is just a tiny part of the organism, like an apple is just one small part of an apple tree. Picking mushrooms, when done carefully, doesn't harm the network. The threads remain, the connections persist. But disturbing the soil too much, digging, compacting, polluting, that can damage the delicate hyphae, breaking the connections, silencing the conversations. This is one reason why walking softly in the forest matters, why leaving no trace matters. Every step you take is above a world that's fragile and precious and largely invisible. The Wood Wide Web doesn't just exist in wild forests. It exists in parks, in gardens, even in the strips of trees along city streets, wherever soil remains healthy enough for the fungi to survive. Those trees you see in urban areas, street trees, park trees, they might be connected too, though often the network is damaged by pavement, pollution, and disturbance. They struggle more, these city trees, partly because their underground community has been disrupted, but given a chance, given healthy soil and space, the connections reform, the fungi return, the web rebuilds itself. Nature is patient that way, always ready to reconnect, to restore what was broken. There's a kind of hope in that, isn't there? Let your breathing slow. Feel the weight of your body sinking just a little. into whatever supports you. The world is full of quiet connections, full of systems of care you can't always see. The chemicals that travel through the wood wide web are incredibly specific. When a tree sends a warning about aphids, for instance, it doesn't just send a general alarm. The signal contains information about the type of aphid, the severity of the attack, even the stage of infestation. Receiving trees can respond accordingly. They might produce compounds that make their sap less nutritious to aphids specifically, or release scents that attract ladybugs, which feed on aphids. The response is tailored, precise, even though it happens slowly over hours or days. It's as if the trees are saying, quote 2, "This kind of chemical communication happens in the air too. When a tree is damaged, it can release volatile organic compounds, airborne chemicals that drift on the wind to neighboring trees. But the underground network is more reliable, more direct. The message travels root to root, fungus to fungus, arriving intact. And because the fungal network is so extensive, a warning can spread across an entire forest. One tree's alarm becomes a community alert. In some experiments, scientists have severed the fungal connections between trees, carefully cutting through the soil to break the threads, and watched what happened when one tree was attacked by insects. Without the network, the warning didn't spread. Neighboring trees were caught unprepared. They suffered more damage. But when the network was intact, the forest responded as one organism, united, coordinated, safe. The fungi themselves benefit from keeping the trees healthy. After all, they rely on the trees for sugar, for energy. If the trees die, the fungi lose their food source. So, it's in the fungi's best interest to help the trees communicate, to facilitate the sharing of resources, to keep the whole system thriving. It's a partnership that benefits everyone involved. Symbiosis at its most elegant. There are thousands of species of mycorrhizal fungi, each with its own preferences, its own strengths. Some specialize in connecting coniferous trees, pines, spruces, firs. Others prefer deciduous trees, oaks, maples, birches. Some are generalists, connecting any tree willing to partner with them. In a mixed forest, you might have multiple fungal networks overlapping, creating layers of connection. A pine tree might be linked to other pines through one network, but also connected to nearby oaks through a different fungus. The result is a tapestry of relationships, complex and beautiful, and resilient. If one network fails, others remain. If one fungus species declines, others can fill the gap. Diversity creates backup systems, redundancy, strength. When a tree dies, its death feeds the network. As its roots decay, nutrients are released back into the soil. The fungi absorb these nutrients and redistribute them to living trees. Nothing is wasted. Everything cycles back into life. Even in death, a tree continues to give, continues to be part of the conversation. And the space it leaves behind, the gap in the canopy, allows light to reach the forest floor. Seedlings that were waiting in the understory suddenly have their chance. They reach up toward the sun and down into the network, finding support there, finding connection. The forest renews itself. The web holds strong. If this story is helping you relax, a like would mean the world to me. It helps others find these peaceful moments too. There are trees that can distinguish between their own roots and the roots of other trees. When a tree's root encounters its own roots elsewhere in the soil, it doesn't compete with itself. It recognizes the roots as self and diverts growth elsewhere. But when it encounters a stranger's root, it might grow more competitively, trying to claim resources. Unless, that is, the trees are connected by the fungal network. Then the competition softens. The trees coexist more peacefully. The network encourages cooperation, makes neighbors into family. Some trees, when they're dying, seem to send a final gift through the network. Their stored nutrients, their remaining sugars, flow out into the web distributed to the survivors. It's as if they're making a final contribution, ensuring that their life's work continues to benefit the forest even after they're gone. Scientists aren't entirely sure if this is intentional or simply a consequence of the tree's failing systems, but either way, the result is the same. The dying nourish the living. The cycle continues. There's something profound in that, something that touches the edges of meaning, of purpose. You don't have to understand it fully. Just let it wash over you. The forest gives and gives, even at the end, and the network receives, redistributes, keeps everything flowing. In tropical rainforests, the fungal networks are especially dense and complex. The soil there is often poor in nutrients. Most of the forest's nutrients are locked up in the living plants themselves, cycling rapidly from leaf to root to fungi and back again. Without the mycorrhizal networks, these forests couldn't exist. The trees would starve. But with the network, nutrients circulate efficiently, shared and reshared, never truly lost. It's a closed loop, a perfect circle of giving and receiving. The forest breathes through its roots, feeds through its roots, communicates through its roots. All invisible to you unless you stop, crouch down, touch the soil with gentle fingers, and remember what's happening beneath. Even in winter, when the trees are bare and the forest seems asleep, the network persists. Dormant perhaps, slower, but still present, still connecting. The fungi can survive freezing temperatures, waiting patiently for spring. When the thaw comes, they're ready. The conversations resume, the sugars flow, life returns. There's patience in nature that we've almost forgotten, the willingness to wait, to endure, to trust that warmth will come again. The trees trust the network. The fungi trust the trees. Together, they trust the seasons. And year after year, century after century, that trust is rewarded. You can trust too. Trust that rest will come. That connection exists even when you can't see it. That you're part of something larger, something that holds you even in darkness. Close your eyes if you haven't already. Feel the quiet around you. You're safe here in this moment, held by the same forces that hold the trees. There's a forest in Switzerland where scientists have been studying these networks for decades. They've mapped the connections between hundreds of trees, tracing the fungal threads, measuring the flow of nutrients, watching as the forest changes year by year. What they've found is that the network is constantly shifting. New connections form as seedlings grow and extend their roots. Old connections fade as trees die or fungi populations change. The web is alive, dynamic, responding to the needs of the moment. But certain connections persist for years. A mother tree and her offspring might remain linked for decades, the flow of support continuing long after the young tree is capable of surviving on its own. Perhaps it's not just about survival. Perhaps there's something else there, something we might recognize even if we don't fully understand it. Continued care, ongoing relationship, bonds that outlast necessity. In that Swiss forest, they found trees that seem to support struggling neighbors even when there's no clear benefit to themselves. A healthy tree sharing with a sick one, a strong tree propping up a weak one. Why? The network allows it. The forest thrives on it. Maybe that's reason enough. When you plant a tree, you're not just planting one individual. You're inviting it to join the network, to become part of the conversation. Given time and healthy soil, the fungi will find it. The connections will form. Your tree will have neighbors, allies, partners underground. This is why transplanted trees often struggle in their first years. They've lost their connections. They have to start over, find new fungi, establish new relationships. It takes energy, time, patience. But if they survive those first vulnerable years, they settle in, they connect. They become part of the web, and the web begins to support them. Growth accelerates. Health improves. They're no longer alone. In Japan, there's a practice called forest bathing, Shinrin-yoku, where people walk slowly through forests, breathing the air, touching the trees, allowing the forest's calm to seep into them. Studies have shown this reduces stress, lowers blood pressure, improves mood. Maybe part of what we're responding to is the presence of the network, the invisible connections, the knowledge, deep and wordless, that we're in a place where life supports life, where cooperation happens quietly, where you're surrounded by systems of care. Your body might sense it, even if your mind doesn't name it. The forest is a community, and communities feel safe. If you're finding peace in this story, our playlist has many more journeys like this one, each one a soft place to land. The threads of the fungal network are so fine that they can penetrate individual soil particles, wrapping around grains of sand, weaving between particles of clay. They bind the soil together, creating structure, preventing erosion. When soil is healthy and full of fungal life, it holds water better. It resists being washed away by rain. It stays loose and aerated, allowing roots to spread easily. The network doesn't just feed the trees, it creates the very medium they grow in. It builds the foundation, literally. Some of the fungi produce a substance called glomalin, a sticky protein that coats the fungal threads and helps bind soil particles together. Glomalin can persist in soil for decades, even after the fungi that produced it are long gone. It's one of the ways the network leaves a legacy. Even when individual threads die, their contribution remains, holding the earth together. There are estimates that mycorrhizal fungi contribute billions of tons of carbon to the soil every year, storing it there, keeping it out of the atmosphere. The network doesn't just support individual trees. It helps regulate the planet's climate, quietly, underground, without fanfare, just doing what it does, connecting and nourishing and building, and in the process, caring for the whole. When forests are clear-cut, the fungal networks collapse. The threads die without their tree partners. The soil, suddenly exposed to sun and rain, erodes. Nutrients leach away. The foundation crumbles. It can take decades for the network to rebuild, even after new trees are planted. Some of the fungal species might never return. They're too specialized, too dependent on specific trees or conditions. This is one of the hidden costs of deforestation, not just the loss of trees, but the loss of the web beneath them, the silencing of conversations that have been happening for centuries. But in forests that are protected, that are allowed to grow old and wild, the networks deepen and strengthen over time. Old-growth forests have the most complex, most resilient underground webs. These forests are treasure troves of connection, libraries of cooperation, cathedrals of quiet communication. Walking through an old-growth forest, you're walking through a place where the network has had time to become fully itself, complex, layered, rich with relationship. Your footsteps are gentle above centuries of conversation. There are urban reforestation projects now that try to inoculate new trees with mycorrhizal fungi, giving them a head start in forming connections. They add fungal spores to the soil at planting time, introducing the trees to potential partners right from the beginning. It's a way of jump-starting the network, helping human-planted forests become more like natural ones more quickly. And it works. Trees that receive this treatment grow faster, survive better, establish themselves more successfully. We're learning to work with the network, not against it, to support what nature already does so well. There's wisdom in that, in recognizing that we don't have to reinvent connection. We just have to make space for it, nurture it, let it happen. Let your mind drift now. Don't hold on to the details. Just feel the idea of it. Roots reaching through darkness, finding each other, touching, sharing, caring. You're part of a web too. Human connections, invisible but real, supporting you even when you can't see them. Family, friends, strangers who've helped you, people you've helped without knowing. The world is threaded through with kindness if you know where to look. In New Zealand, there's a stump of a kauri tree, a massive tree that was cut down long ago. The stump should have died. It has no leaves, no way to make food through photosynthesis, no green anywhere. But it's still alive. Its bark is healthy. Its wood is sound. When researchers measured it, they found sap still flowing through its veins. How? The surrounding forest is keeping it alive. Through the fungal network, neighboring trees are sending it sugars, nutrients, life itself. They're feeding a stump, a piece of the past. A friend who fell but isn't forgotten. No one knows exactly why they do this. Maybe the stump's roots are still so integrated into the network that the forest treats it as part of itself. Maybe there's something the stump gives back, stability, perhaps, or access to deep water. Or maybe the trees just care. Maybe the network doesn't let go easily. It's one of the most moving discoveries in forest science. A community keeping one of its members alive, long past when it should have survived. The forest doesn't abandon its own. When you think about competition in nature, survival of the fittest, the struggle for resources, remember the kauri stump. Remember that nature is also full of cooperation, full of care that defies easy explanation. Both things are true: competition and cooperation, taking and giving, individual and community. The forest holds all of it, balances all of it, makes space for all of it. The mycorrhizal fungi don't just connect trees, they can connect completely different types of plants too. In some ecosystems, fungi link trees to shrubs, shrubs to grasses, grasses to wildflowers. The whole plant community becomes networked together. A forest flower, blooming in the shade, might receive some of its nutrients from a towering tree 50 feet away, delivered through the fungal threads. The tree doesn't need the flower's help, but the network shares anyway. Generosity flows through the system like water finding its level. In the Arctic tundra, where trees are scarce, mycorrhizal networks connect the low-growing plants, mosses, lichens, tiny shrubs. Even in the harshest conditions, even where life seems barely possible, the underground web exists, connecting, supporting, persisting. It's one of nature's fundamental patterns. Wherever plants grow, they reach for connection. They don't face the world alone if they can help it. Neither do you. Even when you feel isolated, there are connections holding you. Some you know about, some you've forgotten, some you've never noticed. But they're there, underground, invisible, real. If this journey is bringing you calm, I'd be grateful if you'd leave a comment below. Your words help build our community here too. Some scientists now believe that the largest living organism on Earth might not be a whale or a giant sequoia, but a fungal network. One individual fungus, genetically uniform, spread across thousands of acres, connecting countless trees. It's hard to even wrap your mind around. An organism you could walk through for days. An organism whose edges you might never find. And it's not alone. There might be dozens of such organisms, overlapping, coexisting, sharing the same space, but operating independently. Beneath the forest floor, there's more life, more complexity, more sheer existence than we ever imagined. You're standing on miracles every time you walk outside. The fungal threads grow slowly, maybe a few inches per year, but they never stop. Year after year, they extend, explore, connect. Given centuries, they can cover entire valleys. Patience isn't just a virtue in the underground world, it's the only way forward. Nothing down there happens quickly. Root tips probe through soil millimeter by millimeter. Fungal threads digest nutrients molecule by molecule. Messages pass from tree to tree over hours, not seconds. But nothing down there stops either. The network is always working, always connecting, always there, even in winter, even in drought, even in darkness. Constant, reliable, present, like the earth itself beneath your feet, always holding you, whether you think about it or not. There are trees that can send distress signals through the network when they're dying. Not warnings about pests. This is different. This is a tree saying, I'm failing, I'm going down, and the network responds. Surrounding trees might send a surge of nutrients, a last-ditch effort to help. It doesn't always work. Sometimes the tree is too far gone. But the attempt is made. The forest tries to save its members right up to the end. And if the tree does die, the network absorbs the loss, redistributes its resources, continues on. Grief and renewal happening simultaneously underground. Life feeding on death, but gently, gratefully, with something that looks almost like reverence. When a seed germinates in the forest, one of the first things it does is reach out for the network. Its tiny root, barely visible, starts producing chemical signals that attract fungal threads. The fungi respond. They grow toward the seedling. Within days, sometimes hours, the first connections form. The seedling is welcomed into the web. It's no longer alone. From its very first moments, it's part of the community. There's something beautiful about that. The way the network is ready, waiting, always willing to expand to include new life. No initiation required, no proof of worth, just existence, just presence. You're welcome here. That's what the network says to every seed. You're welcome. Let us help. Rest now. Let your breathing deepen. The world beneath the world is full of kindness, full of quiet persistence, full of connections that hold strong even in darkness. You're held too, by earth, by air, by the simple fact of being alive, here, now. Let that be enough. The chemicals that flow through the fungal network aren't just nutrients and warning signals. Sometimes trees send what can only be described as information, complex chemical messages that researchers are still learning to decode. A tree under drought stress might signal its neighbors, and those neighbors will begin conserving water in response, closing their stomata earlier in the day, reducing transpiration, preparing for the dry times ahead. The warning gives them time to adapt, time to protect themselves. It's like having an early weather report delivered straight to your roots. In dense forests, where thousands of trees are networked together, these signals can create coordinated responses across large areas. The forest acts as a collective, shifting its behavior in response to shared information. One organism, in a sense, one breathing, communicating, adapting organism. And you're walking through it, maybe not even knowing that beneath your feet, decisions are being made, resources are being allocated, futures are being shaped. The network has preferences, it seems. Studies show that mother trees send more resources to their offspring than to unrelated seedlings. They can recognize their own kin somehow, perhaps through chemical signatures in the root exudates. Family first, but family doesn't mean exclusion. The unrelated seedlings still receive help, just slightly less. It's a sliding scale of care, not an on-off switch. There's enough for everyone, just a little more for those closest to you. You might relate to that. The way you care for everyone in your community, but maybe your family gets the first call when there's limited time or resources. It's not cruel, it's natural. It's the way care ripples outward from the center. Some fungi have been found to quote 3 the network, taking more sugar from the trees than they give back in nutrients. But the trees tolerate this. They keep the relationship going. Perhaps the benefits still outweigh the costs. Perhaps the fungi provide services we haven't yet identified. Or perhaps it's just worth it to stay connected, even if the exchange isn't perfectly fair. Relationships rarely are perfectly balanced, moment to moment. It's the long-term average that matters, the overall pattern of giving and receiving. And in the forest, over decades and centuries, it seems to even out. Our playlist is full of stories like this, gentle explorations of nature's wisdom. Feel free to explore it when you're ready. When loggers practice selective harvesting, taking some trees but leaving others standing, they used to focus just on the size and quality of individual trees. But now, some are starting to consider the network. Which trees are the hubs? Which ones have the most connections? Which ones are feeding the most seedlings? Leave those standing, cut the less connected ones. It's a way of preserving the forest's invisible infrastructure, even while harvesting timber. The forest can recover from that the network holds, and the next generation grows up supported just as it should be. It's forestry informed by understanding, by respect for what we can't see but know is there. In some northern forests, the trees are connected across species in ways that create seasonal partnerships. In summer, the deciduous trees, birches and aspens, have full canopies and produce abundant sugar. They share with the evergreen conifers, which are shaded beneath the canopy. In winter, the deciduous trees are bare, dormant, but the conifers are still photosynthesizing, still making food. And now they share with the dormant, deciduous trees, keeping their roots alive through the cold months. Back and forth, season to season, year after year. They need each other, and they know it in whatever way trees know things. The mycorrhizal fungi can live for centuries, far longer than any individual tree. The network remembers, in a sense. It holds the pattern of the forest even as the players change. New trees grow into old connections. Old pathways are reused. The map of the network shifts, but slowly, maintaining continuity even through change. There's stability in that, the kind of stability that comes not from staying the same, but from having a structure that can accommodate change without collapsing. The network bends, it adapts, but it doesn't break easily. In your own life, you have networks like this, friendships that stretch across years, family ties that hold even through distance, communities that welcome newcomers and mourn losses but continue on. You're part of webs of connection, human and messy and imperfect, but real. Let yourself feel that for a moment. The people who support you, the people you support, the give and take that keeps the whole thing working. You're not alone. You never were. When a forest fire sweeps through, it destroys the above-ground world. Trees blackened, understory plants incinerated, the canopy opened to the sky. But beneath the ground, the network often survives. The soil insulates the fungi. The roots, buried deep, escape the flames. And when the first green shoots appear in the ash, from seeds or from surviving root systems, they immediately tap into the network. The connections are already there. The infrastructure survived. This is one reason forests can recover from fire. The invisible web holds. The community structure persists, and the forest regrows, connected from the start. Even in destruction, the network is a source of hope, a promise that rebuilding is possible. That support is already there, waiting underground. Your own resilience works something like this too. Even after loss, after damage, there are connections that remain, foundations that hold, places to rebuild from. You're more resilient than you think, partly because you're not rebuilding alone. The network is there, invisible, underground, waiting to help. Let your shoulders drop. Let the tension ease from your jaw. You're safe here, in this moment, held by forces older and stronger than any single lifetime. There are some trees that seem to give more than they receive. These are often the oldest, the largest, the grandmother trees standing in the center of the forest, their roots reaching deep and wide. They pump resources into the network continuously, feeding dozens or even hundreds of younger trees. They might receive some benefits in return, early warnings, shared water during drought, but the flow is overwhelmingly outward. They give because they have abundance, because the network allows it, because that's what keeps the forest healthy. You might know someone like this, someone who gives freely, who seems to have endless reserves of care, who makes everyone around them stronger. The forest has them too, and the whole system depends on their generosity. When one of these hub trees dies, from old age, from lightning, from disease, the impact ripples through the network. Dozens of young trees suddenly struggle. The flow of nutrients drops. The forest feels the absence like a wound, but slowly, other trees step into the role. Younger trees grow larger, deepen their roots, begin to give more. New hubs emerge. The network reorganizes. It doesn't collapse. It adapts. This is the resilience of distributed systems. No single point of failure. When one node falls, others rise. It takes time. There's a period of vulnerability, but the pattern reestablishes itself. The forest knows how to heal, Some indigenous peoples have known about these networks for generations. They didn't have microscopes or carbon isotopes, but they understood that the forest was a community, that trees helped each other, that cutting the old mother trees hurt the whole forest. Western science is finally catching up to this knowledge, learning what was always known by those who lived closest to the land, who observed carefully, who listened to the forest's teachings. There's humility in that, in recognizing that discovery for us is often just remembering, returning to wisdoms that were never really lost, just ignored. The network teaches this too. You're part of something older than yourself, something that will outlast you. Your role is to take care of it while you're here, and trust that others will do the same after you're gone. I'd love to know what you're feeling as you listen. Sharing a thought in the comments connects us all, like the roots connect the trees. In the Pacific Northwest, there are forests where nearly every tree is connected through a single fungal species, Rhizopogon vinicolor. Researchers have mapped the network across entire hillsides, finding connections that span hundreds of meters. One network, thousands of trees, all linked. If you could see it, really see it, the way you see the branches above, the forest floor would glow with light, threads of connection running everywhere, pulsing with the flow of nutrients and information. It would be breathtakingly beautiful, a galaxy beneath your feet. But you can't see it. It does its work in darkness, in privacy, without need for recognition. Some of the most important things are like that. Invisible but essential. Quiet but powerful. Your own kindnesses might be like this too. The small things you do that no one notices, the care you extend without expecting acknowledgement. It matters, even if it's invisible, especially because it's invisible. The network doesn't need applause. It just keeps working. There are fungi that connect, not just to tree roots, but to the roots of mycorrhizal plants, plants that have lost the ability to photosynthesize and depend entirely on the fungal network for food. Ghost pipes, Indian pipes, some orchids, these pale, almost translucent plants pull all their nutrients from the fungi, which in turn get those nutrients from photosynthesizing trees. So the trees feed plants they're not even directly connected to. The fungi act as intermediaries, passing the bounty along. Three-way partnerships, chains of dependency, webs within webs. The more you look, the more complex it gets, the more interdependent. No one is truly self-sufficient. Everyone depends on someone else, who depends on someone else, in chains that circle back and connect in unexpected ways. You're part of these chains too, dependent on people you've never met, supporting people who don't know your name. The web of human life mirrors the web beneath the forest. Invisible threads, necessary connections, shared survival. When researchers first proposed the idea of the Wood Wide Web, many scientists were skeptical. It seemed too cooperative, too kind. Nature was supposed to be red in tooth and claw, wasn't it? Ruthless competition, survival of the fittest. But the evidence kept piling up. Tree-to-tree nutrient transfers, seedling support, kin recognition, warning signals. The forest was talking, and what it was saying was, we take care of each other. Both things are true. Competition exists. So does cooperation. Nature is complex enough to hold both, just like human communities. Just like you. You compete when you need to. You cooperate when you can. You're fierce and gentle, both at once. The forest understands. In drought conditions, the network becomes even more crucial. Trees close their stomata to conserve water, which means they photosynthesize less, which means they produce less sugar. But the fungi keep sharing water, moving it from areas where it's more available to areas where it's scarce. Trees with deeper roots accessing groundwater can support trees with shallower roots. The community pools its resources. Everyone sacrifices a little so no one loses everything. It's crisis management, forest style, and it works more often than not. The trees make it through the drought together. They wouldn't make it alone. There's a lesson there about hard times, about leaning on your community when you're struggling, about being willing to be supported. The trees don't refuse help out of pride. They take what's offered. They survive. You can do that too. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. Let your body relax more deeply now. Feel the support beneath you, the chair, the bed, the ground. You're held. You're safe. You're part of a world that knows how to care. The process by which a fungal thread finds a tree root is almost magical. The root exudes chemicals, sugars, amino acids, vitamins, that diffuse through the soil like a scent on the breeze. Fungal threads sense these chemicals. They grow toward higher concentrations, following the gradient, like following a trail of breadcrumbs. When thread and root finally meet, recognition happens. Chemical signals are exchanged. If they're compatible, if the fungus can partner with this species of tree, the thread begins to wrap around the root tip, forming the first connection. It's a kind of handshake, a mutual agreement. I'll help you if you help me. And from that first touch, a relationship that might last decades begins. There's something tender about it. The way life reaches for life. The way connection begins with a simple recognition. We can help each other. You've felt that too. The moment when you meet someone and just know this person is going to matter. This is the start of something. The network grows from billions of these moments, small recognitions, quiet agreements, the decision to reach out and connect. Once the connection is established, the fungus actually grows into the root cells, not to damage them, but to exchange materials more efficiently. Fungal threads penetrate the cell walls, forming tiny tree-like structures called arbuscules. Quote, 4 means, quote, 5. So inside the tree's root, there are tiny fungal trees branching and reaching, creating as much surface area as possible for the exchange of nutrients. Trees inside trees, connection at the cellular level. The intimacy of it is remarkable. This isn't a casual relationship. This is two organisms interpenetrating, sharing space, functioning as one. In the arbuscules, sugars flow from tree to fungus. Phosphorus and nitrogen flow from fungus to tree. The exchange is direct, immediate, continuous. As long as both partners are healthy, the flow doesn't stop. Give and receive and give. The rhythm of symbiosis. Not all mycorrhizal relationships work this way. Some fungi form a sheath around the root tips instead of penetrating the cells. These are called ectomycorrhizal fungi. The exchange happens at the interface between fungus and root. Different strategies, same result. Connection, partnership, mutual benefit. There are many ways to connect, many forms of relationship. The forest embraces them all. Your relationships are like this too. Some people you're close with in ways that feel deeply intertwined. Others you connect with differently, maintaining more space while still caring deeply. All of it is valid. All of it is necessary. The network has room for every kind of connection. Feel free to check out our other videos. They're all designed to help you find this kind of peace and wonder. When a tree is stressed, it often reduces its sugar supply to the fungi. It has to. It needs those resources for itself, for survival. The fungi could abandon the tree at this point, find healthier partners, invest their energy elsewhere. But often they don't. They stay connected. They might even mobilize extra nutrients, trying to help the tree recover. It's not always successful. Sometimes the tree dies anyway, but the fungi try. Loyalty exists underground, or something like it. The network doesn't give up easily on its members. In areas where soil has been contaminated by heavy metals, pollutants, industrial waste, certain fungi can help. They absorb the toxins, preventing them from entering the tree roots. The fungi are damaged by this. The toxins harm them, but they provide a buffer, a layer of protection, giving the trees a chance to survive in poisoned ground. Sacrifice, you might call it. Though the fungi don't think in those terms, they just do what they do: connect, protect, persist. Even in toxic environments, the network tries to support life. There are restoration projects now that use mycorrhizal fungi to help heal damaged land. They inoculate plants with beneficial fungi before planting them in contaminated soil or clear-cut areas. The fungi help the plants establish, tolerate stress, clean the soil. Together, plant and fungus can reclaim land that would otherwise remain barren. Healing through partnership, restoration through connection. It's slower than technological fixes, but often more lasting. The network rebuilds itself. The ecosystem recovers from the ground up. Patience and partnership. That's the formula. In some experiments, researchers have introduced tracer molecules into one tree and watched them appear in neighboring trees within hours. The network is faster than you might think. Not fast by human standards, perhaps, but for a system operating entirely underground, without pumps or hearts or moving parts, it's remarkably efficient. Passive diffusion, concentration gradients, the physics of fluids finding equilibrium, but the result feels intentional, feels purposeful, help flowing from where it's abundant to where it's needed. The universe has a way of doing that if you let it. Resources finding their way to where they're most useful. Support arriving when you need it most. Sometimes it feels like luck. Sometimes like grace. Maybe it's just the network, the invisible web of connection that we're all part of, whether we realize it or not. Trust that when you need help, it will come. Maybe not immediately, maybe not in the form you expect, but it will come. Through the network, through the connections you've built, often without even knowing it. You've been fed by this network your whole life, supported by people and systems and chance encounters that came at just the right time. And you've fed it too. Your kindnesses, your work, your presence, they've rippled outward, supporting others in ways you'll never fully know. The web holds all of it, gives and receives, balances over time. Let yourself rest in that knowledge. You're part of something much larger, something that has your back, something that has been here long before you and will continue long after. You're held. You're connected. You're never truly alone. Breathe that in. Let it settle deep. There's a type of mycorrhizal fungus that produces antibiotics, chemical compounds that kill bacteria. These antibiotics protect the fungal threads from infection, as they grow through soil teeming with microorganisms, but they also protect the tree roots. The antibiotics diffuse from the fungal threads to the surrounding soil, creating a zone of protection around the tree's root system. The tree doesn't ask for this. The fungus isn't consciously defending its partner, but the effect is the same: protection, care, defense of shared space. It's one of the quieter miracles of the network. Medicine flowing through the darkness, keeping disease at bay. Your body has systems like this too. Immune cells you never think about, working constantly to protect you. Good bacteria in your gut, producing compounds that keep you healthy. You're protected by invisible guardians, just like the trees. Some of the most important care you receive, you never notice. It just happens. Silently, continuously. The network operates on trust. Trees send sugar down into the soil, releasing it to the fungi with no guarantee they'll receive anything in return. But they do. Almost always they do. The fungi could cheat, take the sugar and run, give nothing back. But evolution has built this partnership over millions of years. The cheaters didn't survive. The cooperators did. What remains is a system that works on mutual benefit, on trust that has been earned over unimaginable stretches of time. Maybe human communities could learn from this, building systems where cooperation is more beneficial than cheating, where trust is rewarded more often than it's betrayed. We're not there yet, but the blueprint exists underground in every forest. In autumn, as leaves fall and decay, they release nutrients back into the soil. The fungi absorb these nutrients and redistribute them, sometimes back to the same tree, sometimes to its neighbors. The tree feeds itself through its own fallen leaves, mediated by the fungal network. A perfect circle. Nothing is wasted, everything returns. The circle completes itself, season after season. You can create circles like this in your own life. Giving, receiving, and giving again. Resources and care flowing in loops that sustain everyone involved. It doesn't have to be complicated. Just the willingness to participate, to give what you can, to receive what's offered, to pass it on. The network makes it look easy. Maybe it could be, for us too. I hope you're finding comfort in this journey. A like or comment would help share this calm with others who need it. When scientists measure the carbon content of soil in healthy forests, they find that a significant portion of it is locked up in fungal tissue and the compounds fungi produce. The network is a carbon sink. It pulls carbon dioxide from the atmosphere indirectly through the trees and stores it underground. Protecting forests isn't just about the trees. It's about the soil, the fungi. The entire underground web that holds carbon creates stability, supports life. Cut down the trees, and you lose more than wood. You lose the network. You lose the carbon storage. You lose the foundation. It's all connected. The atmosphere, the trees, the fungi, the soil. Harm one part, and the whole system suffers. Care for one part, and the whole system thrives. There are forests now being protected specifically to preserve their mycorrhizal networks. Conservation efforts that focus not just on the trees you can see, but on the web beneath them. It's a shift in thinking from protecting individual organisms to protecting relationships, protecting systems, protecting the invisible infrastructure that makes everything else possible. Maybe we need more of this thinking everywhere, in how we design cities, how we structure communities, how we care for each other. Focus on the connections, strengthen the networks, trust that the individuals will thrive when the web is healthy. In some northern forests where permafrost is beginning to thaw due to climate change, the mycorrhizal networks are shifting. New species of fungi are moving in. Old species are declining. The trees are adapting, forming new partnerships. The network is reorganizing in real time. It's not without stress. Some trees struggle, some die, but the network persists. It finds new forms. It adapts. This is resilience, not the absence of change, but the ability to remain functional through change. You have this resilience too. You've adapted to changes you never expected, formed new connections when old ones were lost, continued on. The network in you is stronger than you think. When a storm blows through and topples trees, their roots are ripped from the ground, their connections severed violently. The network repairs itself slowly. Nearby trees extend new roots. Fungi grow new threads. Connections reform around the gap. The forest remembers the fallen tree in a sense. The gap in the canopy, the disturbed soil, the released nutrients. All of these mark where the tree used to be. But life moves on. The network moves on. It doesn't forget, but it doesn't get stuck either. Grief and growth, memory and continuation, both at once. You know this rhythm too. Loss that leaves gaps. Time that slowly fills them, not with the same things, but with new growth, new connections. The gaps remain in a way, but they're no longer empty. The network knows how to hold space for what was while still reaching toward what's next. Let your mind rest. Don't try to hold on to every detail. Just drift with the feeling of it. Roots in darkness, quiet sharing, life supporting life. You're part of this pattern, this ancient dance of giving and receiving. Let yourself be held by it. Let yourself contribute to it. You're enough just as you are, connected, supported, necessary. Rest in that. Rest deeply. There's a moment in spring when the forest wakes up, the soil warms, snowmelt seeps down, and in the darkness underground, the mycorrhizal networks surge back to life. Fungi that were dormant begin to grow again. Trees that were conserving resources through winter start sending sugars downward. The flow resumes. You can't see this happening, but if you could measure it, the chemistry, the electrical signals, the movement of molecules, you'd see a whole world coming alive. The network never truly sleeps, but it does rest, and then it wakes. Like you, maybe, emerging from a period of dormancy, of hibernation, feeling energy return, feeling connection reestablish itself. It happens gradually. One day, you realize, I'm awake again. I'm alive again. The network understands seasons, cycles, the necessity of rest, and the joy of renewal. In the earliest forests on Earth, hundreds of millions of years ago, the first mycorrhizal relationships were forming. Primitive plants, just learning to live on land, partnering with fungi to access nutrients. Those ancient partnerships made possible the green world we know today. Without fungi, plants might never have successfully colonized land. The forests that eventually grew, the oxygen they produced, the animals they supported, all of it traces back to those first connections between root and fungus. The network is older than almost anything. It's foundational. It's the beginning of life as we know it. And it's still here, still working, still connecting. You're living in a world shaped by these ancient partnerships. Breathing air produced by forests that exist because of the web beneath them. You owe your existence in some distant way to mycorrhizal fungi, as does every land-dwelling creature, every forest bird, every mammal, every insect. All of us, children of the network. When you water a houseplant, you're supporting its mycorrhizal partnerships. Even in a pot on a windowsill far from any forest, the fungi are there. Reduced, perhaps, limited by the small space and artificial conditions, but present. Your plant is connected to its fungal partner, sharing and receiving, maintaining the ancient agreement. It's comforting, isn't it, that this relationship is so fundamental. It happens even in the smallest spaces, even in human homes. The network finds a way. It persists. It adapts to wherever life tries to grow. Thank you for being here, for listening. If you have thoughts to share, the comments are a space for our own network to connect. There are trees that, when infected with a pathogen, will seal off the infected area, compartmentalize it, preventing the disease from spreading. But this requires energy, resources. The mycorrhizal network can help. Fungi deliver extra nutrients to the stressed tree, supporting its immune response. Neighboring trees might increase their sugar donations, giving the sick tree what it needs to fight back. It's not always enough. Sometimes the tree dies anyway. But the community tries. The network mobilizes. It's what communities do. Rally around those who are struggling. Offer what they can. Hope it's enough. And when it's not enough, when loss occurs, the network absorbs it, grieves it, in whatever way trees and fungi grieve, and continues. Because that's what life does. It continues, it finds a way, it rebuilds. In cities, street trees often struggle. The soil is compacted, poor in nutrients, sometimes contaminated. The trees are isolated, planted far from others, cut off from potential networks. But when urban planners create continuous soil beds, allowing the roots of multiple trees to grow in shared healthy soil, mycorrhizal networks can form even in cities. And those trees do better. They grow faster, live longer, withstand stress more effectively. Connection helps, even in the harshest environments. Even in concrete jungles, the network can exist. It just needs a chance, a little space, a little care. Your own networks function like this too. Even in urban isolation, even in difficult circumstances, connection is possible. Sometimes all it takes is a little space, a little effort to reach out. The network will do the rest. Some forests have been studied for decades now, the same plots monitored year after year. Researchers return, measure the trees, map the networks, watch the changes. What they've found is that the networks are even more dynamic than initially thought. Connections form and dissolve continuously. Trees die and are replaced. Fungi come and go, but certain patterns persist. Hub trees remain hubs. The overall structure stays relatively stable even as the details change. It's like a river. The water is always different, never the same molecules flowing past twice, but the river remains. The channel stays. The pattern persists. Your life is like this too. Everything changes, everyone changes, but certain patterns, who you are at your core, the relationships that matter most, these remain. The network is always you, even as the details shift. When a tree is very young, just a seedling, vulnerable and small, it receives more from the network than it gives. It's a net drain on the system, but the network supports it anyway, feeds it, protects it, gives it a chance to grow. Years later, when that seedling has become a strong young tree, it begins to give back. It contributes sugars, shares resources, eventually becomes a support for the next generation of seedlings. The network invests in the future. It gives freely to those who can't yet give back, trusting that someday they will. You were supported like this once, when you were young, vulnerable, unable to fully contribute. Family, teachers, friends, they gave to you, investing in your future. Now maybe you're giving back, supporting others, passing it on, or maybe you're still receiving more than you give. That's okay too. The network doesn't demand immediate reciprocity. It trusts that over a lifetime, it balances out. Give when you can, receive when you need to. Trust the long arc of it. The network does. Breathe slowly. Feel your body sinking, relaxing, releasing. You're part of an ancient web, held by connections you can't see but can trust. Supported, connected, never alone. Let that truth wash over you. Let it be enough. Rest now. Rest deeply. The network has you. In the deepest parts of the forest, where sunlight barely reaches and the soil is thick with centuries of fallen leaves, the mycorrhizal network is at its most complex, layer upon layer of fungal threads, connections so dense that nearly every cubic inch of soil contains miles of hyphae. It's a web so intricate it defies complete mapping. Researchers do their best, but they know they're only seeing a fraction of what's there. The full complexity is beyond measurement, beyond imagination, and yet it works perfectly, constantly, without central planning, without coordination from above. Just individual connections made and maintained, adding up to something vast and functional and alive. Emergence, they call it in science. When simple rules, followed locally, create complex systems. The network doesn't know it's a network. Each fungal thread just responds to the chemicals around it, growing, connecting, exchanging. But together, they create something that looks almost intelligent, almost intentional. A distributed intelligence, a collective mind, in a sense. The forest thinking through its roots. Human communities work like this too. No central controller, just individuals making local decisions, responding to the people around them, creating systems and cultures and collective behaviors that no one designed. You're part of these emergent systems, contributing to them without always knowing what you're building. Trust that your small, local acts of connection contribute to something larger, something good. The network teaches this. Small efforts matter. Local connections scale up. When trees are planted for reforestation, success rates improve dramatically if the soil from healthy forests is added to the planting sites. The soil carries fungal spores, bacteria, other microorganisms. The new trees tap into this gifted community. They're not starting from scratch. They're being welcomed into an existing network. Even if it's a new location, life seeding life. Community transplanted, taking root again. It's a kind of hope, isn't it? That even in degraded places, even where forests have been lost, the network can return, given help, given time. Nothing is permanently destroyed if we act soon enough. The connections can reform. The web can be rebuilt. Your own life has probably known this. Times when everything seemed broken. But with help, with time, connections reformed. You rebuilt. The capacity for recovery is remarkable. In forests. In you. If you're enjoying this peaceful exploration, subscribing means you'll never miss a new journey into nature's quiet wonders. Some of the trees in old-growth forests are connected to networks that have existed for thousands of years. The fungi might have cycled through countless generations, but the network itself, the pattern of connection, persists. Walking through an ancient forest, you're walking through a community that has endured longer than civilizations, longer than languages, longer than religions. It's humbling, puts human timescales in perspective. We're brief. The network is patient. It will be here after we're gone, if we let it, if we protect it. Our responsibility isn't to control the forest or perfect it, just to not destroy it, to leave space for it to be what it's always been: connected, collaborative, ancient, wise. In tropical rainforests, the mycorrhizal networks are different. The soil is poor, so the networks are even more crucial. Nutrients cycle rapidly from leaf to soil to fungus to root and back to leaf. Everything is reused. Nothing is wasted. The network is the memory of the ecosystem. It holds the nutrients, circulates them, ensures they're not lost. Without it, the rainforest would collapse. The soil alone couldn't support such abundance. It's all network, all connection. The trees are just the visible part. The real forest is underground. Maybe your life is like this too. The part people see, your accomplishments, your personality, your daily life. That's just the visible part. Underneath is a network of relationships, experiences, influences, connections that support everything above ground. The real you is network, is connection. You're more than what shows. Deeper, more complex, more interconnected. And that's beautiful. When autumn comes and leaves begin to fall, the trees are not dying. They're preparing, pulling resources inward, down into their roots, storing what they'll need for winter, and the network helps. Fungi store some of the tree's sugars, holding them safe until spring. Other trees in the network might contribute to this storage too, sharing space in the web. The forest has memory. Not conscious memory, but chemical, spatial memory. Resources stored in the right places, ready for when they're needed. Planning, in a sense. Preparation. The network thinks ahead. Slowly, patiently. Always considering what comes next. You do this too. Preparing for winter, metaphorically. Storing resources, emotional, financial, relational, for harder times. It's wise. It's natural. It's what living systems do. And when winter comes, when hard times arrive, those stored resources are there. The network provides, just like it always has, just like it always will. In disturbed ecosystems, places recovering from fire, flood, logging, or other damage, the first plants to return are often connected to remnants of the old mycorrhizal network. Fungi surviving in root fragments or spores in the soil, waiting, ready. They connect to the new seedlings immediately. Welcome them, support them. The network remembers the forest, helps it return. This is how resilience works. Not starting over completely, but rebuilding from what remains, from the foundations that survived. You've done this. Everyone has rebuilt from fragments. Found that some connections survived, even when everything seemed lost. Those fragments are enough. The network grows from them. From almost nothing, abundance returns, given time, given care. Trust this. Trust that what seems broken can heal. That connection finds a way. The network always does. Close your eyes. Let the darkness be gentle. Imagine roots beneath you, reaching, touching, holding. You're part of this. Always have been, always will be. Connected, supported, home. Rest in this knowledge. Rest deeply. There's a forest in Sweden where researchers painted tiny marks on individual fungal threads under a microscope, then tracked those threads as they grew through clear observation panels in the soil. They watched the threads explore, searching, reaching toward new roots, retreating from areas with few nutrients, growing toward moisture. It looked almost like foraging, like decision-making. Of course, the fungus isn't conscious. It's responding to chemical gradients, to environmental cues. But the result is the same. Purposeful movement, effective strategy. The network finds what it needs, goes where it's needed, without brain, without thought, just response, just being. You can live like this too sometimes, not overthinking, just responding to what draws you, moving toward what nourishes you, pulling back from what depletes you, trusting your deeper instincts, your root-level knowing. The network doesn't doubt itself. It just grows. Maybe you can too. In some forests, there are trees that have been grafted together naturally, their roots fused underground, creating a direct physical connection in addition to the fungal links. Two trees sharing a vascular system, literally flowing into each other. Water and nutrients pass between them directly. If one is damaged, the other might keep it alive through this connection. It's intimacy beyond what we usually imagine for plants. Two becoming one, while remaining two. Some human relationships are like this, so close that boundaries blur. You're distinct individuals, but also somehow one system. Not everyone has relationships like this, but if you do, you know how profound they are. The forest has them too. Rare, special, permanent. When mycorrhizal fungi reproduce, they send up mushrooms, fruiting bodies that produce spores. The spores drift on wind or water, landing in new soil, starting new networks elsewhere. But the network beneath, the mycelium, doesn't die when the mushroom fades. It continues. It might be decades before another mushroom appears. The visible is temporary. The invisible is enduring. What you see above ground, success, achievement, the moments of visibility, these are like the mushrooms. Brief, beautiful, but not the whole story. Below, always, is the network, working, growing, persisting. That's where you really live, in the ongoing, invisible work of being, of connecting, of growing. The mushrooms are lovely, but they're not what matters most. I'd love to hear which part of this story has touched you. Sharing in the comments helps build our community. There are forests where climate change is shifting which tree species can survive. As some species decline, others move in. The mycorrhizal networks have to adapt. Some fungi can partner with multiple tree species, so they shift allegiances. Others are more specialized and decline with their tree partners. The network is reorganizing, slowly, imperfectly. Some connections are lost, new ones form. It's not ideal, but it's survival, adaptation in real time. You've lived through changes like this, relationships that ended, new connections that surprised you, networks that had to reorganize around loss. It's painful. It's also how life continues. The network doesn't resist change. It bends with it, finds new forms. And so can you. When you plant a garden, you're creating opportunities for mycorrhizal networks to form. Even in a small plot, connections happen. Your tomato plant connects to fungi in the soil. Those fungi might connect to your basil, your peppers, your flowers. A tiny network, a small web, but it's real, it's functioning, it's live. You can be part of this, growing food, growing flowers, growing connection, even in a pot on a balcony, even in the smallest space. The network scales. It works at every size, from forests spanning continents to a single pot on a windowsill. Connection is possible everywhere. You just have to give it space to happen. In laboratories, scientists have created artificial systems, plants in sterile soil, carefully inoculated with specific fungi. They control every variable, trying to understand the mechanisms. And they learn important things: how the connections form, what chemicals are exchanged, how the relationship develops. But even they admit the real network in the wild is infinitely more complex. What happens in the lab is a shadow of what happens in the forest. Some things can't be reduced, can't be fully controlled or understood. The network is one of them. And that's okay. You don't have to understand something completely to appreciate it, to benefit from it, to be part of it. Let the mystery remain. Let the complexity be. You're connected to systems you'll never fully understand: human communities, ecosystems, the universe itself. Not understanding doesn't make them less real, less important, less worthy of care. The network asks nothing except that you allow it to exist, to function, to connect. Can you do that in forests, in your relationships, in yourself? Allow the network, trust it, tend it, and watch what grows. When lightning strikes a tree, the electrical discharge can travel down through the roots and into the mycorrhizal network. Other trees might receive a small shock, a pulse of electricity traveling through the web. No one knows if this matters, if the trees respond to it, if it's a kind of signal. But it's beautiful to imagine. The forest flickering with shared electricity, thunder translated into underground pulses, energy moving through the network in forms we're only beginning to detect. Your own networks pulse with energies too: emotional, social, chemical, invisible currents connecting you to others, signals you send and receive without conscious thought. Trust these connections. They're real, even when you can't measure them. The network knows, the network carries. Let your breathing slow. Let thought dissolve into sensation. You're not separate from the world. You're woven into it, root to root, heart to heart. The web holds you, always has, always will. Rest in this, rest completely. In the oldest forests, there are trees that have been connected to the same network for their entire lives. Centuries of unbroken partnership with the fungi beneath them. They've never been alone. From the moment they germinated, the network was there, welcoming, supporting. They grew up held by this invisible community. They'll die held by it. It's a different kind of existence than we usually imagine for organisms. Not isolated, not independent, fundamentally social, fundamentally connected. Maybe this is what life really is. Not individual organisms struggling alone, but communities of beings so intertwined that separateness is an illusion. You're more like the trees than you think. You've never been truly alone either. From birth, you've been held by networks, family, community, society, ecosystems. The sense of isolation you sometimes feel is real as an experience, but it's not the truth of your existence. The truth is, you're held, always have been. The network doesn't let go. When a tree falls in the forest and no one is around to hear it, does it make a sound? The old philosophical question. But here's another. When a tree falls in the forest, does the network feel it? The sudden severing of connections, the loss of a member, the gap where a presence used to be. If the trees could feel, would they mourn? We don't know, can't know, but the network responds, reorganizes, continues, and new seedlings grow in the gap, reaching for the light, reaching for connection. Life responding to loss by continuing, by reaching, by growing anyway. You know this pattern intimately. Everyone does. Loss happens. The network shifts. Life continues, not without grief, not without change, but it continues. The connections hold. New growth happens. The network endures. Some people ask, If the trees are so connected, so cooperative, why do forests still have competition? Why do some trees die while others thrive? The answer is, both are true. Competition and cooperation. Both exist. Both are necessary. The network doesn't eliminate competition. It tempers it, softens it, creates space for mutual aid alongside individuals striving. It's not either /or, it's both /and. Just like human communities, just like you compete when you need to, you cooperate when you can. Both impulses live in you. The network understands. Hold space for both. Nature isn't pure, isn't simple, isn't all gentle or all harsh. It's complex, contradictory, real. And still, beneath it all, the connections hold. Thanks for spending this time in the quiet with me. If you'd like more stories like this, our playlist is always growing. In permaculture gardens, people intentionally create conditions for mycorrhizal networks to thrive. They disturb the soil minimally. They plant diverse species. They add organic matter, and the networks respond, grow. Connect the garden plants into a web. The garden becomes more than individual plants. It becomes a community, supporting itself, requiring less input from the gardener, working with nature, not against it. You can design your life like this too. Create conditions where good connections can form, minimize disturbance, cultivate diversity, add nourishment, and then step back. Let the network do what networks do. Trust that connection will happen. That support will emerge. You don't have to force it. Just create the conditions and allow. The network knows how to grow. There are companies now that sell mycorrhizal inoculants, packets of fungal spores you can add to soil when planting. They promise better growth, healthier plants, stronger roots, and they work often. But here's what they don't tell you. If the soil is healthy, the fungi are already there, waiting. You don't need to buy connection. It's already present in healthy systems. What you need to do is stop killing it. Stop using chemicals that harm the fungi. Stop tilling so deeply you shred the network. Protect what's there, and it will thrive. Same with human communities. You don't need to manufacture connection from nothing. It emerges naturally when you create healthy conditions, when you stop the harmful practices, when you protect what's trying to grow. The network is always ready, always trying to form. Your job is just to not destroy it, and maybe to nourish it a little. The fungi don't grow straight lines. They wander, explore. Sometimes they grow in circles, sometimes in branching patterns that look almost random. But there's logic in it. They're following gradients, finding nutrients, connecting optimally. What looks aimless is actually efficient. What looks random is actually responsive. Your own path might feel like this, wandering, circuitous, not the straight line you imagined. But maybe you're just following gradients you can't consciously detect, moving toward nourishment, connecting in ways that'll make sense later. Trust the wandering. Trust the seemingly random turns. The network grows the way it needs to grow. So do you in the Arctic, where growing seasons are short and resources are scarce. Mycorrhizal networks are especially crucial. Plants can't afford to waste time or energy establishing connections. So the networks are ancient, stable, passed down through generations of plants like an inheritance. New seedlings are born into an existing web, welcomed immediately, supported from day one. It's how life persists in harsh places, through community, through sharing what little there is. through connections that outlast individuals. Your own harsh times might work like this. You survive because of connections. Some you built, some you inherited, some that were just there when you needed them. You didn't do it alone. Nobody does. The network carried you, like it carries everything. Even in the coldest, harshest places, connection exists. Maybe especially there. Let your body be heavy. Let your mind be quiet. You're a part of an ancient web, older than memory, deeper than thought, connected, held, cherished. The network doesn't judge, doesn't demand, just connects, just holds. You're enough, right now, as you are. The network knows. Let that be enough. Rest now. Rest deeply. Let the web hold you. In the canopy high above, leaves are photosynthesizing, sunlight, carbon dioxide, water becoming sugar, energy captured from the sun and transformed into food. Some of that sugar goes to building new leaves, new branches, new growth. But much of it flows downward, into the trunk, into the roots, into the soil, and into the fungi. The tree gives away more than half of what it makes, just gives it away, into the darkness, to partners it can't even see. It's an act of profound trust, or profound wisdom, or both. The tree knows, in whatever way trees know things, that giving is how it survives. Not hoarding, not keeping everything for itself, but sharing generously, continuously. And because of this, it thrives. The fungi give back. The network supports it. Generosity becomes survival strategy. You might live like this too. Giving more than seems prudent, sharing more than seems safe, and finding somehow that it works, that the network reciprocates, that abundance flows toward those who share. It's not a guarantee, not a promise, but it's a pattern. Old as forests, real as roots. Give what you can. The network notices. The fungi don't distinguish between earned and unearned support. A struggling seedling receives help not because it deserves it, but because it needs it. The network doesn't operate on merit. It operates on need. Those who have, give. Those who need, receive. It's a different kind of economy than we're used to. Not transactional, not based on fairness or desert, based on relationship, on being part of the community. You're in it, you're supported. That's the rule. Imagine human communities working like this, supporting people because they're part of the community, not because they've earned it, not charity, not welfare, just you're here. You're one of us. Of course we share. The network knows nothing else. Maybe we could learn. When a tree is cut down, its stump often remains connected to the network for years. Neighboring trees keep it alive, feeding it, maintaining the root system even though there's no canopy. Why? There's no benefit to them. The stump produces nothing, contributes nothing, but they feed it anyway. Maybe it's just how the network works. Resources flow where they're needed, and the stump needs resources, so it receives them. Or maybe there's something we don't understand. Some benefit the stump provides. Some reason the trees maintain it. Or maybe, just maybe, it's care. In some form we don't recognize. The forest taking care of its own, even in death. We don't know. The mystery remains. But the stump lives, fed by the network, held in the web. Even at the end, connection persists. Your own endings might be like this, not as final as they seem, still held, still part of the community, still fed by connections that don't sever just because the visible part is gone. You leave traces, roots, connections. The network remembers. The network holds, even after I hope you found some stillness here. Liking this video helps others discover these moments of peace too. In the future, as climate continues to change, some forests will migrate. Trees that once thrived in one region will decline. New species will move in from warmer or cooler areas. The mycorrhizal networks will have to adapt. Some fungal species will move with their tree partners. Others will find new partners. Some will be lost. It's not the end of the network. But it's a transformation. The web will look different, function differently, but it will persist because that's what networks do. They adapt, they reorganize, they find new forms. Your own future will bring changes, some losses, some transformations. The network you're part of will shift. Some connections will fade. New ones will form. It might not look like what you imagine, what you hope for, but it will still be a network, still be connection, still be enough to hold you. Trust this. Trust that the web adapts, that you'll be held, even in forms you don't yet recognize. The future is uncertain. The network is constant. There are experiments where researchers have played music to plants, wondering if vibration affects growth. Results are mixed, unclear. But here's what's interesting. The mycorrhizal network conducts vibration. Sound waves travel through the fungal threads, through the soil, potentially reaching connected trees. Could this be another form of communication? Vibration carried through the web? No one knows yet. The research is just beginning. But imagine the forest humming with information, vibrations of growth, of stress, of presence, a symphony happening underground. Notes you can't hear, but that shape everything. Your own life vibrates through networks too. Your presence creates ripples in your family, your community, the systems you're part of. You might not notice, but the web carries your frequency, responds to it, adjusts because of it. You matter to the network. Your presence changes it, never doubt that. In indigenous traditions from many cultures, trees are relatives, elders, teachers. Not metaphorically, actually. They're kin, part of the family, deserving of respect and care. Western science is slowly arriving at something similar, not through spirituality, but through ecology. The trees are connected to us. We breathe what they exhale. We depend on the forests they form. We're shaped by the same networks. We're relatives. Actually, the web includes you, connects you to the trees, to the fungi, to everything alive. Your family to the forest, whether you've known it or not. And family takes care of family. So when you protect a forest, you're caring for kin. When you plant a tree, you're strengthening the family web. When you walk softly in nature, you're honoring relationship. The network doesn't end at the edge of the forest. It includes you. It always has. Welcome home. Let your eyes close fully now. Let the last bits of tension drain away. You're connected. You're held. You're home. In the web, in the world, in the family of all living things. Nothing can take this from you. Nothing can sever these roots. You belong completely, permanently. Rest in this truth. Rest deeply. Beneath the forest floor, in darkness so complete that no eye has ever seen it, the network continues its work. Threads reaching, nutrients flowing, messages passing, quiet, constant, eternal. No one is watching, no one is recording, no one is measuring every exchange. But it happens anyway. This vast act of cooperation, this endless web of care. It doesn't need witnesses. It doesn't need praise. It just is. And because it is, the forest lives. You're like this too. Much of what you do, much of who you are, happens in darkness, in private moments, in thoughts no one else knows, acts of kindness no one sees, struggles you face alone, growth that happens in silence. The hidden parts of you are doing the real work, building the foundation, creating the network that supports the visible parts of your life. Trust this. Honor this. The underground is where life really happens. When you walk through a forest, every step you take is above miles of conversation, acres of cooperation, centuries of connection. You can't see it, but it's there, holding the world together, making the visible beauty possible. Without the network, there would be no forest, just individual trees struggling, maybe surviving, but barely, certainly not thriving. The network is what turns individual trees into a forest, what turns separation into community. It's the difference between existing and thriving. You have networks like this, some you're aware of, many you're not. Friends who check on you, systems that support you, chance encounters that open doors, invisible threads holding you, helping you thrive. Thank them when you can, in whatever way makes sense. The network doesn't need thanks, but gratitude strengthens connection, and stronger connection serves everyone. As we come to the end of our journey tonight, let yourself feel the quiet, the peace, the sense of connection that hums beneath everything. You started this listening alone, but you've never been alone. The web has held you every moment, will hold you when you wake, will hold you always. Trees thousands of miles away are connected to networks. Those networks connect to soil. That soil connects to air. That air travels to where you are. In some distant, real way, you're connected to those trees, to those networks. The whole living world is one web, and you're part of it. There's comfort in this if you let yourself feel it. You're not separate, not isolated, not adrift. You're woven in, held, part of the pattern, and the pattern is bigger, older, wiser than any individual life. Trust it. Rest in it. If you're still here, still listening, thank you. Your presence matters. Subscribing means you'll always have a peaceful place to return to. In the morning, the forest will wake. Sap will flow. Photosynthesis will resume. And deep underground, the network will continue its ancient work, connecting, supporting, holding. It doesn't sleep, not really. It just cycles, slows and quickens, gives and receives, like breath, like heartbeat, like the tides. Natural rhythm, eternal pattern. You can rest because the network doesn't. It keeps working, keeps holding. You're safe to sleep, safe to let go, safe to trust that when you wake, the world will still be here, connected, cooperative, kind. The wood wide web stretches beneath everything, older than memory, deeper than understanding. You've spent this time learning about it, but really, you've always known. Somewhere deep, root level deep, you've always known. You're connected. You're held. You're home. This isn't new information. It's remembering. Coming back to what you've always been part of. The network welcomes you. Always has, always will. Close your eyes now. Let the darkness be gentle. Feel the earth beneath you, solid, real, alive. Imagine roots growing down from your body, not literally, but in your mind, in your heart, reaching into the soil, finding the network, connecting. You're part of this, part of the web, part of the forest's conversation. Your breath is wind through leaves. Your heartbeat is sap flowing. Your rest is the forest's rest. You belong here, to earth, to life, to the vast web of being. Sleep now. Sleep deeply. The network has you. The fungi remember you. The trees hold space for you. You're not separate. You never were. You're woven into everything. Every breath you take connects you to trees, breathing in your exhaled carbon, making oxygen from it, breathing back what you need. Circle upon circle, gift upon gift. The web of life, functioning perfectly. And you're part of it. Essential, necessary, beloved. Rest in this. Rest completely. Let the last thoughts fade. Let the body soften fully. You're safe. You're held. You're home. In the web, in the world, in the great network of all that lives. Welcome home. Welcome to the quiet. Welcome to the peace that was always here, waiting. The trees whisper goodnight through their roots. The fungi carry the message. The network holds you. Sleep deeply, peacefully. You're exactly where you belong. Good night.